Hi everyone, this presentation is just going to talk a little bit more about what a professional learning community is. So what is it? The book gives a quote that I really liked. It says it's an ongoing process in which educators work collaboratively in recurring cycles of collective inquiry and action research to achieve better results for the students that they serve. And the focus of my job is to help kids and to help them learn and achieve. And so I really like that this definition mentions that at the end of it. So kind of in my own words, a PLC involves a group of educators working together to enhance student achievement is really what it is. Who is it? It's helpful to think of the school or district as the PLC and the various collaborative teams as the building blocks. And for me, this was extremely important to understand because coming into this class, in my mind, I thought that a PLC was a meeting of a small team, the two things that it's actually not. So a meeting of a department or a meeting of a grade level. And I learned that a meeting is not nearly enough to implement long-lasting change. And while a small team is great and it's a part of the PLC, it needs to be thought of as the school or the district, district-wide efforts. A small team is not nearly enough. Purpose of a PLC. The main purpose is to ensure that all students learn at high levels. Ensure being italicized just because we want to make sure and be certain that all students are learning. We don't just want to give students a chance to learn. We don't just want to give them an opportunity. We want to make sure that they are learning. And to do this, educators must be learning as well throughout the process. Educators within the PLC work together. They have to achieve common goals. And all of the members have to be mutually accountable for and take responsibility of learning. And so really what that means is that if a student has a success, everybody's accountable, everybody takes responsibility. If a student is struggling with something and it's seen that there's something that an educator could do to help that learning a little bit more, everybody's accountable, everybody's responsible. And so it goes both ways there. In the video, the importance of PLCs, I really like the quote that says, and all professional organizations have agreed that our best hope for improving schools is to focus on developing the capacity of the people within the schools. And again, that just kind of talks about in order for students to learn, the educators have to be learning as well throughout the process. Building that shared knowledge that Chapter 2 talks about really just means that when a leader learns something from a meeting or whatever, that leader shares that knowledge with the staff. So that the staff learns new things that can help students. And so again, all educators need to be learning to ensure that students are learning as well. These are the most important takeaways that I got from the reading. Number one, less overwhelming to think of a PLC in terms of the 4 pillars that the reading talks about. A lot of times I get stressed as an educator thinking about how am I going to balance all this stuff and implement all this new change. And it was less overwhelming for me to think of it in terms of these. The mission, why am I in my job? Why do I have the job that I do? Vision being just what can I do to help my students? What procedures can I use? What direction am I going to take? Values, how am I going to behave in my classroom? What kind of role model am I going to be? How am I going to act? Goals. How am I going to see that my students are learning? How am I going to mark that progress? And so really for me, these are things that I already do anyway. And so it helps me to think of a PLC in terms of those things so that I'm not as stressed. Number 2, change is not going to happen with just one person. You have to get the support of the key staff members. And so it's great if the leader sees all this change that they want to incorporate. It's ultimately not going to happen if staff is not on board. Staff is not open-minded and staff is not willing to implement the change. Number 3, communication is key. Communication takes place in the classroom when, we're helping our students. Communication takes place when educators are collaborating. Communication takes place building that shared knowledge. So if a leader learns something that he's communicating or she's communicating with the staff. Communication's everywhere. And so it's super important to remember that when thinking of a PLC and really when thinking of teaching in general. The third one, a loose versus tight process. I can still be myself as a teacher. Yes, I have to achieve common goals. I have to work with other teachers, et cetera, et cetera. That's the tight part of the process. But the loose part of the process just means I can still have my personality. I can implement things the way that I want to implement them, and I can still be myself. And so for me, that's really important to remember when thinking of PLCs.